Thank you very much. President Alexander, Speaker Smith, Speaker Pro Tem Pope, Chairman Peeler, Chairman Bannister, Chairman Rankin, Chairman Newton, the majority and minority leaders of the Senate and the House, to all members of the General Assembly, thank you for extending to me the privilege of addressing this esteemed joint assembly. I wish to recognize my excellent colleagues on the Supreme Court, Justices Few, James, Hill, and Verdon. Chief Judge Williams of the Court of Appeals is here along with the outstanding appellate court judges. Welcome. As always, I wish to recognize and thank my predecessors for the excellent foundation they laid. Chief Justices Toll, Plakonis, and Beatty. Please know that I appreciate the tremendous demands on your time. Legislative service is not like it was a generation ago. It is full-time service. And with the advancements and curse of modern technology, the text messages, the emails, the phone calls, the social media posts that seemingly never end. With the speed of life increasing in this microwave society, it's difficult to pause and study an issue thoroughly and thoughtfully. Yet I'm going to respectfully ask that you give the judicial branch, the third branch of government, a few minutes of your attention. In our brief time together, we'll not come away with the full understanding of all the issues and challenges facing our justice system. There are so many topics we could discuss. The importance of technology, how to wisely leverage AI, the increase in violence for those who participate in the justice system, the move to e-filing in the family court, and on and on. There's so many pressing issues, yet time is precious. So I have decided to discuss only 4 topics. And on the few topics we will discuss, I'm only able to provide a brief overview. But remember this, I am available to meet, speak, and work with you individually or in groups on any matters involving our justice system that are important to you. I believe there is a positive relationship between the legislature and the judicial branch. To be sure, the structure of government is such that there is a tension between branches of government. That is by design. And it necessarily flows from constitutional structures and guardrails we're familiar with, like checks and balances and separation of powers. But that tension inherent in our constitutional design should not detract from our working together to do our best to provide for the more than 5.5 million South Carolinians a justice system that is fair, open, accessible, timely, and provides equal justice to all. Progress is being made, and I will share a few examples. And I want to emphasize on the front end that the progress being made in our justice system is largely because of you in this room. Our General Assembly makes public policy decisions and determines budgets, and you have provided the support that enables the judicial branch to better serve our fellow citizens. To put a finer point on it, it is our collaboration together where you are strengthening the South Carolina justice system. I commend and thank you for your support of the justice system, which benefits our fellow citizens. I'm going to address the state of the court system, court filings, backlogs, and show you where progress is being made. But I first want to address judicial reform. There's a lot we could unpack here, but I'm only going to briefly mention two issues. First, we in the judiciary, like you, are aware of the half-truths and false narratives that circulate on social media, podcasts, and other outlets masquerading as journalism, attacking you and our justice system. I believe you understand that judges, we are bound by ethical constraints, and those rules prohibit judges from responding to attacks against court decisions, no matter how false or outrageous the allegation may be. One attack levied against the legislature is the method of judicial selection. And I want to offer a brief comment on judicial selection. You know, there are many ways judges can be appointed. And for lawyers who aspire to pursue a public service career on the bench, we leave it to you to determine what changes, if any, are needed in the method of selecting judges. There is no perfect way to select judges. But I suggest to you that the legislature has elected quality judges over the years. When this legislative body of 170 diverse members individually vets judicial candidates and then collectively elects judges, that diffusion of authority enhances merit selection. Were one person allowed to completely control the selection process, we would expose the process to the potential of having political considerations driving the process and not merit. I simply say that I know firsthand South Carolina has one of the finest judiciaries in the country. More on the judges you elect in just a few short minutes. Allow me to move to my second comment on judicial reform. Magistrate court, magistrate reform. I have requested a modest increase in magistrate court filing fees, which have not been adjusted in decades. This is a crucial part of judicial reform because it provides additional and long overdue funds to counties to support the magistrate court system, including salaries. Representative Pope has filed legislation and marshaled it through the House. I'm hopeful it will be passed in the Senate. Let's think for a brief moment more broadly about magistrate court reform. Magistrate court is often where a person gets their first, sometimes only, exposure to the South Carolina court system. A citizen's entire view, perception of our justice system may come from that magistrate court experience. South Carolina has more than 300 magistrates, Put that in perspective. 300 plus magistrates. Yet if you look to the entirety of the family court bench, 66 judges, circuit court bench, 53 judges, Court of Appeals, 9 judges, Supreme Court, 5 justices. What are the numbers? About 130. You double all of our trial and appellate court judges that the legislature elects, and you're still far short of the number of magistrates. Is magistrate reform needed? It's my sense we would all say yes. That's easy. The challenge is identifying what reform looks like. I wish I had the luxury of time to discuss this in great detail with you now, but I don't. I wrote a letter to all members of the General Assembly a few months ago detailing this issue, the challenges in addressing magistrate reform. There are a lot of moving pieces, and I'll refer back to my detailed letter. For now, I simply say we need to move forward toward a unified magistrate system, and we do that by focusing on uniformity. Let me leave you with a final point on judicial reform in the magistrate court. That point is the gross pay disparity among full-time magistrate judge salaries. The highest paid magistrate in South Carolina earns more than $155,000, just a tick under $156,000. The lowest paid full-time magistrate earns $37,105. That disparity in pay among full-time magistrates not only defeats the goal of a uniform system, it guarantees a lack of uniformity and all the negative consequences that necessarily follow. I conclude my brief comments on magistrate reform with an invitation to discuss this important issue with you more fully. Magistrate reform is needed, and I'm hopeful of a positive and productive dialogue with you. I now transition to a challenge facing our court system, one that may be self-evident, but I don't believe it's fully appreciated. I'm going to call this judicial infrastructure. Governor McMaster, in his State of the State address, discussed infrastructure, and he mentioned traffic congestion, water and sewer access, growing demand for electric power, health care and school pressures, road repair, etc. I add judicial infrastructure to the list. Infrastructure demands reach everywhere, and certainly that includes our court system. Last year, in my State of the Judiciary presentation, I mentioned a data collection effort that was underway. We need to know in our courts what's going on, every aspect of the operation of the courts, so we can identify what the needs are, where the needs are, and thus more wisely allocate judicial resources. We're still trying to work with all the courts, the 46 county clerks of court, and obtain correct data. We're making progress, but quite frankly, we have a ways to go. Let me share some numbers with you that I believe will get your attention. In the last few years, more than 9 million cases have been filed in all of our trial courts. This is a conservative number because we're still counting. You and the public can access this information. It's on the South Carolina Judicial website. This is what we have thus far. Now, there's a disclaimer because we don't yet have complete information, but you and the public can get a sense of the numbers of cases in the various courts throughout the counties and the judicial circuits. As we gather more data, this public dashboard of court information will be updated. Permit me to illustrate the reality of this unprecedented growth so we can better and more fully appreciate the indisputable connection between infrastructure and our court system. In the year 2000, South Carolina had a population of about 4 million. Today, a quarter of a century later, we are surpassing 5.5 million. In terms of percentage growth, South Carolina is the fastest growing state in the country. Look at the bottom of this chart. Between July 2024 and July 2025, according to the Census Bureau, South Carolina added more than 6,600 people every month, right at 80,000 for the year. So President Alexander, in 1 year, South Carolina adds 80,000 people, which approximates the population of Oconee County. As South Carolina grows at a rate we've never seen before, let us acknowledge the obvious. The increase in judicial resources since the year 2000 is far less than the actual population increase and court filing increase. Here's another look. Courts often will measure their ability to provide a justice system by the number of judges per 100,000 population. Looking to our general jurisdiction court, our circuit court, we have 53 circuit judges. That gives us 0.97, less than 1, 0.97 judges per 100,000 population. We are requesting in this year's budget 4 additional resident circuit judges in targeted areas of need. If we are successful in increasing our number of circuit judges from 53 to 57, our ratio would be 1.04 judges per 100,000. That would be an improvement. But how do we stack up with some sister states in the Southeast? Based on data furnished by the National Center of State Courts, Tennessee has 2.3 judges per 100,000 population. Alabama has 3.3 judges per 100,000. We're behind other states, but the 4 additional circuit judges would move us in a positive direction. Now, with all this growth, in terms of population and court filings, you would think the backlogs are growing and growing, and we're just getting further behind. But I want you to know, we are making progress. We recently looked at year-to-year comparison in the circuit and family courts. And I want to share with you what we learned. We have a series of benchmarks that are utilized to measure backlogs and progress. Let's first look at the criminal court, which is called the Court of General Sessions. In criminal court, overall from 2021 to 2025, we can get a look at the backlog by the number of pending cases at the end of each calendar year, Are the cases we don't get to growing and growing or not? Please see that we have reduced the backlog by 16.9%. The backlogs are decreasing. Look at this chart. Roughly 200,000 criminal cases were pending several years ago at year's end. Now look at the end of 2025. The number of pending cases declined to just over 165,000. However, that's not the only measure. We can all agree that we want criminal cases disposed of before they are 3 years old. From 2024 to 2025, and looking at indicted criminal cases, we saw overall a 17.6% decrease in the number of criminal cases more than 3 years old. The backlog is coming down. Look with me at the civil side of the court that we call the Court of Common Pleas. On the civil side, one benchmark is to try to get the case resolved over within 2 years of the case being filed. So let's look at cases filed year by year. You can see that a few years back, there were 77,789 cases filed and almost 15,000 still pending after 2 years. Look at the yearly trend, a tremendous increase in cases filed. We went from almost 78,000 cases filed to more than 100,000 cases filed last year in 2025. And we expect such a dramatic increase with the population boom across South Carolina. Yet look at the decrease in cases more than 2 years old. Almost 15,000 cases were pending at the end of 2021. And at the end of 2025, there were only 9,200 cases pending. The big picture is this: a 28% increase in new cases, yet we were able to reduce the civil backlog of cases pending more than 2 years by about 37%. That's counterintuitive. How do we reduce backlog of older cases when case filings are on the rise? Before unpacking this good news further, please take a quick look with me at our family courts. You may know that in the often emotional and pressure-packed family court, because of the time-sensitive and child-centered nature of family court proceedings, we have what is called the 365-day rule, where we want a family court domestic relations case resolved within a year. That's a big ask, but it's important given the critical need for family courts to handle cases, especially involving children, expeditiously. We have always sought to meet an 80% threshold, which means we want 80% of all family court domestic relations cases completed, finished, in a year. Through the years, the majority of counties and circuits have met that 80% threshold. At the end of 2025, we had 32 counties meeting the benchmark. We hope to put the 3 new family court judges you just elected to work immediately. We hope that next year, more counties we will see will meet the benchmark. What makes our work on the family court backlog significant is context. We're maintaining substantial compliance with the family court 365-day rule for domestic relations cases as the case filings increase, just as we've seen in the circuit court. In family court from 2020 to 2025, we saw a 13% increase in family court case filings, yet we are maintaining success and helping most families achieve resolution in family court within a year of the filing of the case. Again, we are making progress. As I wrap up our discussion on judicial infrastructure, please keep in mind the vastness of the workload in our court system. Among judges and court staff, we use the phrase term of court. A term of court is a phrase we use to describe a court week from Monday through Friday, or designated days during the week. In 2024, we held 5,190 terms of circuit and family court. That's a lot of court. Yet in 2025, we increased terms of court to 5,771. Think about that. 5,771 terms of circuit and family court. That's a massive amount of court. And it does not include magistrate's court, probate court, municipal court, and on. Operating the South Carolina court system is no small undertaking. The system operates because of people. People who care and do their best every day. From judges, the court staff, such as court reporters, clerks of court, court schedulers, and a strong administrative staff. And as you can see from these results, we are making progress. And it could not happen without a supportive General Assembly. Thank you. How are we making this kind of progress as we do more with less? The complete answer is multifaceted, but due to time constraints, my answer must be abbreviated. The answer involves systems and people. You can see that the volume of work done in our courts is staggering. We are assigning our limited judicial resources to areas of greatest need. We are doing our best to put our most valuable resource, people, where they are needed. We have good and decent people in court administration, hardworking people in the courtrooms, such as our court reporters. And give me a moment to return to our judges. Are judges perfect? Of course not. As with any group or institution, we are human and mistakes occur. We have an appellate court system with multiple judges involved in every case to do our best to correct mistakes when they occur. The judges you elect are overwhelmingly competent, diligent, professional, committed to doing their best to apply the law fairly and in an even-handed manner in every case. And they are caring. And the record is clear that because of the extensive vetting done under the current system, South Carolina judges rarely face founded disciplinary complaints, unlike judges in other states. Yes, I'm aware of the largely social media-driven attacks against our South Carolina judges, but those attacks from disgruntled litigants or from those looking to score easy political points are generally unfounded. I'm proud to serve alongside the fine men and women you elect as judges. Some of our judges, many of them, go the extra mile and do double duty. Moreover, when unforeseen circumstances arise, those in the judicial branch step forward and volunteer. Last year, when Circuit Judge Diane Goodstein's home was destroyed by fire, members of her family seriously injured, many of her colleagues volunteered to serve and cover her terms of court. Among those who volunteered were Judges Newman, Griffith, McIntosh, Mullen, Doby, Rivers, and War. In addition, we have masters in equity who are doing double duty, continuing to hold equity court as a master in equity, but also volunteering over and over in the circuit court. And they include Judges Clemens, Simmons, and Wegman. Many retired judges have stepped forward in the last few years in both circuit and family court. They're holding court, and importantly, they're holding court more frequently. And among them included are Judges Cothran, Kinlaw, Hocker, Norton, Pogue, Wiley, and Moorhead. Last year, a family court judge unexpectedly suffered a disabling injury and was unable to continue to hold court. That judge had terms of court scheduled weeks and months in advance. And those family court litigants on that docket needed resolution. They didn't need delay. They needed resolution. Your family court judges gave up chambers weeks and vacation and said, "Send me." Included among the judges who volunteered were Judges Ballinger, Norton, Rommel Holmes, Kimmons, Wiley, McKeechin, Michael Murphy, Abstance, Moorhead, Curry, and McFadden. Notice Judge McFadden. He's a circuit court judge who previously served on the family court bench. Judge McFadden was on vacation when the family court judge could no longer hold court. Judge McFadden called to let us know, "Hey, I'm leaving the family vacation. I'm heading to Sumter. I will complete that term of court." Judge McFadden also every year holds special adoption days of court. Why make uncontested adoptions wait and wait on crowded family court dockets? Judge McFadden, a circuit court judge, asks every year for special appointment to hold family court so he can approve adoptions and unite families. In the pictures before you, you'll recognize the face of your friend and colleague, Representative David Weeks, who knows firsthand of the incredible service done through this special judge and the others who helped move adoptions through. Through the years, this special adoptions day has approved almost 600 adoptions. Judge McFadden gets not one extra penny for that judicial service. He does it not for recognition. He does it because he's a caring judge, and more importantly, a caring person. That description applies to so many of our fine judges. There's so many other examples that I could share with you. to show you the humanity and the caring nature of the judges you elect. But I must be sensitive of the time you have graciously allowed me. Please understand this. I'm proud to serve along the side of the judges you elect. And you too should be proud of the fine men and women you elect to the Judiciary of South Carolina. I now move to my final point. We've looked at numbers like 9 million cases filed that show the size of the responsibility we face as stewards in ensuring and maintaining an effective justice system. It sounds like we as judges are nothing more than assembly line workers, focused only on moving cases through as fast as we can. That's not the message I leave you with today. Admittedly, the volume of cases is staggering, but the message I leave you with is this. Always know that judges understand every case is important. To a litigant in a case, that case is often the most important thing in his or her life. No one wants to be in court. We must never lose sight of the very real and frequently painful realities of a court case. The pressure on judges to move cases while doing precise justice in every case is a difficult balancing act. The pressure, the weight on judges to do the right thing is enormous. The judicial position in our constitutional structure necessarily requires the exercise of discretion and judgment. As I said earlier, we don't pretend to be perfect, yet our judges give their best every day. There's so many cases where justice is done. I close with just one example, an example that highlights the very real and very human element that's on display in the courtrooms across South Carolina every day. From Oconee to Horry, from Cherokee to Charleston, and everywhere in between. I share with you the story of Mark Atkinson, and I do so with his permission. Here's Mark Atkinson, a highly decorated non-commissioned officer in our armed forces. Here's another picture of Mark. On September 8, 2022, Mark was arrested for driving under the influence. He was one of many people arrested that day, and the system could just have assigned his case to a prosecutor and worked toward a conviction. That day, he looked just like any other person arrested for DUI. But the system took the time to see that Mark Atkinson was not a repeat offender with a criminal history. He was a person who was struggling. You see, Mark retired from the Air Force and Air National Guard, and he had seen active deployment all over the world, both before and after 9/11. With his degree in network engineering, his services were needed in Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan. He did an outstanding job under dangerous conditions. He was awarded the Bronze Star for his service. When he retired, like many veterans who served our country and saw combat, he had a difficult time coming home, and assimilating into what we would call normal life. He began drinking to cope with what he later found out was PTSD. And to use his words, he was heading down a very dark road. After his DUI arrest, Mark attempted suicide, continued to drink. He did not believe he would ever stop drinking. He was overcome with a sense of hopelessness. But those in the justice system thought he could be saved. Mark agreed to give Veterans Treatment Court a try. Those in the justice system believed in Mark, so why shouldn't Mark believe in himself? Mark made it. And he credits a caring judge, Chuck Simmons of Greenville, and the treatment court staff for saving his life. Mark has been sober for over 2 years. Here's Mark Atkinson today. Yes, our court system handles many millions of cases, but the judges in South Carolina never forget that to the people involved in a court case, that one case is the most important thing to them. The robe I wear is like the robe all our judges wear. It's made up of threads. Each thread is significant, yet individual threads are formless. It's when the threads are joined and woven together does the robe take shape. My friend and retired Circuit Judge Billy Keesley said this about the judge's robe, quote, "There are thousands of black threads woven together to make this robe. When it is complete, the robe will cover anyone. It will cover every race, every religion, every person." My friends, I tell you, the threads of this robe represent fidelity to the law. The robe represents impartiality, caring for all, including crime victims. The robe represents a humble recognition of the immense responsibility that is entrusted to us, and a commitment to do our best to achieve justice in every case. Justice for victims and justice for the Mark Atkinsons who enter the justice system every day. This is the judiciary of South Carolina, and I'm proud to serve alongside those who also wear the robe. And as long as I'm privileged to serve as Chief Justice, we will never waver from the pursuit of justice in every case. God bless you, and God bless the state of South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. The members of the General Assembly will please rise so that the Honorable Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and his distinguished escort party can depart this joint assembly. Mr. Chief Justice.